A little bit of time, I have a child that will eat constantly from the minute he's awake to the minute he goes to sleep. And he's always got a banana in his hand. And he must eat 15 to 20 a day. When would I expect he could actually be able to sit down and eat 5 at a time? I mean, he doesn't do that. He'll just eat like one, a half hour later, have another one, and it's just a continuum. Would you recommend grazing for them?
The question is, effectively, if a child is taking a grazing approach to its diet and not eating meals as such, is that something to support or something to try and do something about? Habits are very powerfully developed in childhood. We tend to carry them through into our adult life with ease. What are the advantages of eating a meal at relatively fixed intervals? And when I say fixed, I don't mean you eat by the clock. I'm saying eat when you're hungry, but leaving a significant gap between one period of eating and another. The benefit is that you allow your body to focus its energies on digesting and fully dealing with what's being eaten before it has to start dealing with something else that's come down the chute. And it is true to say that to allow an appropriate gap between meal times as a habitual way of living is a good thing. After all, in our natural environment, the chances are that we would find a source of food and we would feast on that until we were satisfied. And then we might have to wander off some time before we would find the next available food. It's unlikely that we would spend all day long and food was at hand every time we turned around. Having said that, it's far preferable that a child is allowed to develop the habit of eating according to appetite as opposed to the clock. I'm not suggesting meals should be regimented according to the clock. The more you can support a child in identifying its own hunger and responding by eating, the better. So add something to that.
Infants should be fed on demand, and really little one, talking about a child that's quite young still, is only capable of eating small quantities. He's really not capable of sitting down and eating 4 or 5 bananas 3 times a day. It's almost an imperative for him as a little person that he eat with more frequency. It's an interesting thing because you're saying he's having half a banana every half hour. So in the case of his waking time, he may actually be eating a dozen bananas, conceivably more. That's pretty good eating, to sit down and eat a bunch of them. As adults, we're going to separate out our meals for many good reasons. Rosie mentioned several. Certainly, eating all the time makes it rather difficult to be physically active for an adult. For a child, he can eat a little bit all the time, and he has the freedom to do that, and he has no intention of going for a workout. The likelihood of him exercising, he'll play all day, he may go all the time, but the likelihood of him getting himself extremely out of breath and then maintaining the edge of breathlessness for 30 or 40 minutes as a cardiovascular activity is next to null. So it doesn't impede his ability to go about his business like it does an adult. He will, over time, develop an increased capacity to eat more volume. At the same time, his attention span will increase. He'll get more involved in activities that take longer periods of time to pursue, and it will all happen in a rather beautifully choreographed fashion for him.
My children in particular, I've had to transition them into wrong. In the beginning, I was going for whatever it took. If you wanted to put it in all day, put it in all day. But now I'm getting to the concern where Rob's not new anymore. And if it's healthy, training him is okay to eat all day. He doesn't know how to sit down and eat breakfast. I don't want him to grow up to be an adult that eats all day. What will it just naturally?
Children will naturally follow the lead of their parents. It's tough to get a 2-year-old to say please and thank you. You got to ask them and remind them thousands of times before they do that automatically. And it's tough to train them to eat sufficient volume so that they're not going to be hungry for the next 3 hours. That's a very hard thing to do, but they will naturally grow towards eating meal times because they're going to want to share meal times with you. At the moment it doesn't mean anything to them, but they will naturally do that, just as I'm sure Bella does, sit down and eat a meal with you, and yet is still likely to eat more frequently than just 3 times per day. In 5 more years, the likelihood is that she'll be down to eating just a few times a day. And it's a gradual process. I don't think in any way, from my knowledge and experience, that you're setting an example that's going to be very difficult for him to change later on. Not at all.
Could I ask how old the child is? 3.5. And I agree totally with Doug, and I would say that as the social structure of his life unfolds, and he's spending time with his friends, and then there's other structures that he will automatically find in his life, such as perhaps his school or his place of work eventually, whatever it is, but automatically his eating habits will have become moulded in order for him to be able to do in a day what he needs to do without being distracted by food. In a conclusion, I would say that what I believe we're both saying is that there's no need for you to worry.
But don't let him run with that banana in his hand. That's as dangerous as scissors.